Welcome, everyone, to episode 76 of Kowalski Analysis. I'm your host, Rob Kowalski, and this is a podcast designed to help you navigate the weight and become the best version of you. And tonight we have on a special guest. This is Melissa. Should I call you Melissa or Mel?
I go by Mel.
Mel New. And Mel is the founder and owner of IYKYK, and that stands for If You Know, You Know, Dating. She grew up in a Christian home in Phoenix, Arizona. She got saved when she was 11 years old. She loves to travel, especially with friends, and she moved to San Diego 4 years ago and started her business, IYKYK Dating, in early 2021 after being laid off from her full-time software sales job due to the pandemic. She's passionate about mental health, therapy, and obviously Christian dating. Welcome to the show, Mel.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I think this is going to be fun. I actually posted that we were going to be talking in the Waiting Works community, and I let all the members give me questions. Everybody seemed very curious about this. So before we start, we like to do a little game that we call This or That. So I'm going to ask you 5 this or that questions, and you just answer them as a way for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Romantic comedy or horror movie?
Romantic comedy.
Rom-com. Okay. Be really similar to a partner or completely different?
Oh, that's so hard. Really similar.
Really similar. Okay. Yeah. I think opposites might attract, but then you drive each other crazy.
Exactly.
All right. Share food or have separate meals?
Share food.
Share food. I love it. Same for me. I eat off people's plates. Be told where you're going on a date or be surprised?
Told.
Told?
Yeah, immediately told.
Okay. Instagram or TikTok?
Ooh, TikTok.
I knew you would say it. You make me TikTok.
How'd you know?
All right. So let's just dive into it. Before we get in, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why you're so passionate about Christian dating.
Yeah, love to. So you did a great job with my intro. But in addition to that, as far as maybe my kind of dating background is, so I grew up in a Christian home, and I grew up in the era of, evangelical Christian, Joshua Harris, I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And I was pretty fortunate that my parents didn't necessarily have that viewpoint of, being super, super serious and intentional about dating at such a young age. And they were actually more of like, you should date around. You should get to know more people. I'm like, can't believe you'd say something like that. Have you not read Joshua Harris's I Kissed Dating Goodbye? And so I feel like from a young age, I definitely was a little more legalistic about dating, and definitely thought there was a set of rules. And then I knew from a young age that I wanted to date a Christian. And so I had a lot of really good boundaries and a lot of good standards. And so just for a long time, I just didn't ever date anybody until I was maybe 26 even. I mean, I had a high school boyfriend for 2 weeks. But other than that, I just had never found a guy that I felt really was up to the standards that I really wanted. And then, I turned 26 and I was coming back from the mission field, and I was like, I want to meet somebody. And so I started kind of online dating. And I just realized, wow, this whole dating game is hard and it's confusing, and it's different than when I was in college or in high school, because you don't just have a million people your same age around you, and you have to be more intentional about it. And there's rules, and there's unwritten rules. And my first online date, I got ghosted by a youth pastor, and that one was just a really hard one for me, because I was like, wait, what? I thought you got to be intentional. It was just it was a whole new thing of navigating. So I remember at 26, I had to really rethink, okay, what do I think about dating? Because obviously I took it way too seriously, at least that youth pastor, and then I got heartbroken. Then I'm like, I think I'm taking this too seriously, but I've been told to take it so seriously. So I listened to some really good podcasts and they talked a lot about with dating, why don't you just focus on connecting with the person in front of you? So I was like, I really like that idea. I'll try it out. I'll see. And so probably from the time I was 26 and I turned 30 in March, I've just really focused on doing that as kind of my goal in dating. Obviously, there's an overarching goal of, yes, you want to get married, but having more of a goal of connecting, and me really seeing a lot of fruit from that And so that's kind of how I came to become really passionate about this idea of dating in a way that's actually a lot more biblical and a lot more healthy than what the church has suggested Christians date. So yeah, I'll leave it at that for right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. There's a lot of toxic information out there.
Yeah.
So before I want to talk to you a little bit about your secret sauce with the dating, like what your MO is.
Mhm.
But before I ask that, I just want to add, I feel like a really, so 22 years for the most part, except when I was backslidden, I haven't dated. So 6 years I didn't date. And then for the last 10, 11 years, I really have maybe been on 5 dates or something. I don't know, something really low. But I had this stirring in me now. Like, I'm really excited to get out there. I don't know what it is. Since I moved in with my uncle because he's getting older and I'm kind of acting as a caregiver. And
Yeah.
something about happened. I don't know if it's because I don't, I feel like I'm a little bit more financially stable now. Or what, but I just feel something different's changed where I'm like really excited to date and maybe get married. I was thinking I could get married if I got married in 4 months, which is possible if I was to meet her, and we'd be obviously the fast track, but that would be like right before my 50th birthday. So I'm like, that'd be pretty sweet. Go away on my honeymoon for my 50th birthday present. So look, if you know any good looking Christian girls out there, I wouldn't mind meeting them.
What's your age?
They gotta move to Baltimore though. Like I'm not going into it with any preconceived notions. A friend asked me, like, do you care if they have kids or not? I'm like, no. Do you want to have kids or not? I'm like, for me, it's all take it or I'm like, I want a connection with the person first. Then everything else after that is negotiable. Do we have kids? Do not. If she doesn't want to, I'm okay with all that. But first I want to meet somebody that I can't get enough of. So I would say 25 plus, whatever,
All right, ladies, you heard it here.
Yeah, get in my DM, ladies.
Get in his DMs.
So with Cityfam, our secret sauce is, or if you want to call it that, is we do one social event and one social event on the first Friday of the month called Renegade. Usually go to a bar, restaurant. Service event on the third Saturday of the month, Sold Out Saturday. That's our kind of typical schedule, and we do lots of events in between there, the unofficial events by members. But what is the IYKYK, is that right? Okay.
Sometimes we say IYK for short. Just go IYK.
So it's 50. I know it's 50 men, 50 women, right?
It can be. So we have a minimum where we say at least 20 guys and at least 20 girls. We always want to keep it even ratios. So maybe for people who aren't even quite sure what we do, we actually run dating mixers for people who are single, who are Christian, and it's designed to be for people to meet local singles in their area who are also Christian, that are going to church. And so we think, hey, why don't we gather these people together? They go to all different churches, because sometimes there's maybe not people at your church that you want to date, or maybe there are, but there really isn't necessarily a forum for you to feel like it would be appropriate for you to even go up to them or ask them on a date. And there's definitely different church cultures, different temperatures where that's really encouraged, that's really looked down upon. And it's a hard thing to navigate. So my thought was just like, why don't I literally create an environment where it is okay to intentionally date, it's okay to give your contact information out, that's like kind of the goal of it, in addition to just making friends, just connecting. And so that's kind of that's what we do, that we're an event company, ministry company, where we want to do it with excellence. And we put these mixers all over the United States. And eventually our goal is to have one in every major city in the United States. But we have, like I said, a minimum of 20 guys and 20 girls. We always have even ratios, because I don't know about you, but I have noticed in the church world, a lot of times we have a big women outweigh the men, which the guys are like, that's fine with me.
Yeah, like, right. No,
I'm sure that would be fine with you. I mean, yeah, fair enough. That would be fine with you, but we really want this to be more of like an even playing field, and to create just a space where it's not weird, because that's kind of weird. There's like 5 girls to 1 guy. It just creates this weird dynamic. So anyway, that's going to be the minimum of 40 people are going to be there. to the maximum would be 75 girls and 75 guys. And I don't know if we've ever actually maxed out an event completely yet. We've become really close, but that's kind of just that's our secret sauce. And we want to do these in every city once every 4 months. I think that gives you kind of enough time to, if you meet some people, and kind of reset the game where there's going to be new people in the next 4 months, and so that's kind of our schedule of how we are trying to structure everything.
I like it. Have you seen any marriages come out of these yet?
So far we have, they're engaged. They're going to get married in September. So in like a few months.
That's good. Yeah.
Which is super exciting. And then another one, they're probably about to get engaged any day now. And then another couple who met basically at our event, and they're in a pretty serious relationship. So that we know of. So if anybody's listening out there and you went to one of our events and you're in a relationship, please let us know, because it makes me so happy.
Yeah, you need that testimonial. We actually just had a
Cityfam. I need that testimonial.
Right. Yeah. We just had a Cityfam marriage. Two people that met on Cityfam. And I know we've had at least 3 over the years, but I think there's probably more, because sometimes people meet and they go away and then you don't know what happens to them.
Yeah, you're like, please tell me.
So, yeah, you mentioned the church, like, going up to somebody at church, and it's like, it's so weird because I think women and men both have that kind of fantasy, like, that's where, like you go meet him at the grocery store and he comes up to you, but it's like,
avocado.
Who does that? Like, who's going to go up to somebody in the grocery store and be like, hey, like, that takes a lot of courage,
Although I do encourage it. I encourage y'all do it.
Okay.
But you're right. It's scary.
It's funny because, like, and I feel this, but I'm intimidated by women. I don't want to feel rejection. And it's like, we forget that they want to meet somebody too. But we're scared to approach them. It's such a weird thing. Like the way God created it, it's almost like we're scared of each other a little bit.
We are. Oh my gosh. Like today I was at a coffee shop and there's this like really hot guy. And I was just like, oh my gosh, don't look at him. Don't look. I was just like, I was nervous, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, you have to look at him or else he's not going to know.
Right.
He's not going to know you're interested. But if it's somebody you're not, you can be like, hey, what's up? And you're like, why am I like this?
Right. That's a great point, ladies. And because I say, don't approach a man, don't pursue a man, but you can make eye contact with him, let him know that it's safe to approach.
Or even ask him a question. I think that's totally like, I don't know. Do you come here often? Maybe not that. But
what's your sign?
What's your sign? No.
No, you don't want to ask that. Yeah, that means he's new agey. So, okay. Hey, Rob Kowalski here. When I first got serious about living intentionally and becoming a better version of myself, I found a major shortage of things to do and people to do them with. And it was the loneliness and boredom that led me to starting Cityfam. So I just want to take a moment right now and encourage you to go over and join the Cityfam Facebook community. It's a free Facebook group, and in it you'll find purpose-driven people from all over the world that want to enjoy life to the fullest. You can search it on Facebook, or you can go to www.friendswithbetterbenefits.com and it'll take you right there. While I'm mentioning it, if you're single, searching for real love before sex, as I like to say, I want to encourage you to join the Waiting Works community. That's another free Facebook group I put together designed to help people wait well, date well, and ultimately hit the mark in life and love. And you can go to www.reallovewaits.com and I'll see you over there. Now back to the episode. How are you growing? Are you growing organically, word of mouth, or how are people finding out about you?
Yeah, mostly organically, word of mouth. We are on TikTok and Instagram. That's how we got our big break, I guess, is on TikTok. One of our videos got like 500,000 views, and that was just, and then we started funneling people into like an intake form so we can start collecting emails. But we are going to start looking into more targeted ads. And because the thing that's hard about this is we have a lot of girls, which is great, but we noticed that we are not lacking in the guys, but the amount of guys that have even filled out the interest form is just low. And we realize that's because social media is a lot more of like a women's game, especially TikTok and Instagram. But YouTube and Twitter are more kind of like a man's domain, or populated by guys, I guess. And so it's like, okay, that makes sense. Then why we wouldn't have as many guys signing up? Because I just don't think there's many. They're just not as exposed to it. They just don't know about it.
Yeah.
They know they're interested in it. And so someone suggested, like, why don't you try targeted ads towards just men and get a really good promo video and then just run them on like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, maybe. I don't know if Twitter even does ads, but yeah, to run them there to try to, capture the men.
No, it's a common problem. I mean, you hear about this with these dating, these singles events, and it's, always women outnumbering men. And it's like, why is that? I don't know. I wonder why that is. Is it because the culture is just, it's so easy for men to have sex now without much work, so they're not wanting to put the work in? Or I don't know. What do you think it is?
I have a few theories, thought long and hard about this. So I think, first of all, it's okay. So very interesting, in the secular world, it's completely flipped. That you're always going to want to get more girls, and there's like a bajillion guys. Think about like bars, ladies' nights, whatever. There's always more men. And I think there's a few reasons. So the first one, I think that it's because, women just outweigh men typically in the church these days. So it's going to make sense that there's going to be more women than men who are single, to the sheer numbers. And then also a dating coach or somebody brought this up, talking about how, and it does have to do with sex, of worldly men, they're kind of, the worldly attitude is to be like impulsive and just go after what you want, versus Christian men, they're taught to be, wise and prudent and, thoughtful through things. And so I think in a lot of ways it comes from a good, and also some maybe toxic, I don't want to say purity culture, but the Joshua Harris, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, like really high stakes. I think a lot of times you'll see like guys not approaching women or being so bold about it because they care about women. I think it comes from a good place.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think that at least with non-Christian guys or people that are, sleeping around or whatever, having sex, that I feel like a less vulnerable, it's a lower investment event for somebody who is having sex, because then in their mind they're like, I'm just coming here to hook up with somebody. But if you're coming to a Christian dating event, like, you're not going to have sex with me, you're going to have like a relationship, or that's kind of your goal. And that's kind of vulnerable to go and be like, yeah, I'm looking for something real. And you can't just be like, because you just want to get some. No. That's off the table,
Right.
And so I think it's more vulnerable.
Yeah. So there's something I mentioned in my 10 reasons video is, if you break it all the way, or boil it all the way down to the base, what women and men desire in a relationship is, men want sex and women want security. Not to say that, women don't like sex or men don't like security. We do, but at the core, that's what we're, our motives are. If you want to say motivation is, that's
You're
why
wired like that.
Yeah, what women are always going to be the ones to say when we have sex for the first time. If you're not, you're not a Christian, they're the ones that determine when they give it out, and the men determines when we propose, right? When we commit,
right.
So that's, I think what you said, that last point you mentioned, is because you're right. It's not that there are a lot of men in the bars because they're all there for the sex. All these dating things are there for the women, are there for the relationship, and the men are like, that's, we're kind of like almost like an animal. We don't want to be trapped a little bit. We're like, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's the way it feels like, because you're like, well, I don't know. It's weird. Like, I totally want to have sex, like, again. And I hadn't went out and tried to find a relationship that badly, but now I am. So I don't know, but I think you hit the nail on the head on that last point. So, how do you choose the cities where you're going to next?
Yeah. So we look directly at our interest form, our intake form. Basically, we look and see how many people have filled it out and where they're from in the United States. And so, for example, one really big area was from Dallas. We had a ton of signups from Dallas. And so what we need is at least 200 signups from the city that we want to go to. And I actually just looked with my marketing person, like, we looked at the numbers and realized we need even more numbers than that. Because most of these are women signing up. So we're like, okay, we actually need even more signups from men as well. Like 100 of those need to be from men,
sure.
Just to be able to fill the numbers. So that's a huge way. So we always are encouraging people. We're like, come to my city. You're like, have you filled out the interest form yet? Because if we don't have an email to send, hey, we're coming to your city, then it's going to be really hard to fill that event.
Sure.
And so we're always like, share it with your friends, share it with your single friends, you know, get especially men to sign up and fill out this form. It's not very long. It's just some like information so that we can just be in contact with you.
Good. Yeah. So we have a social fam group in Dallas that's
Mhm.
just starting to get going again, and they're starting to do events. So they might be very interested in
Yeah.
learning about when you're coming there. I actually was on Elliot Hall. So I don't know if you know Elliot Hall. He's a pretty famous YouTuber. He's got about
Sure.
800 and some thousand subscribers, and
Wow.
he's like a strong man, but he's also a coach to men, and he's all about, you know, real masculinity. And so now he became a believer, and now he's, you know, telling his men, you need to find a wife and get married. You know, abstinence is real man masculinity. And so he had me on the show to talk about it. And he said, you know, all of his guys are always like, where are the girls that aren't sluts? So like, you know, like, where are the girls worth waiting for? And I'm like, I said, dude, they're saying the opposite. In the Waiting Works community, all the girls are like, where are the men that are waiting, or at least willing to wait? And he's like, yeah, we got to link them up. So I might connect you with him, because he's got a lot of men that are looking for wives, supposedly.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, like, because I always hear that too. I don't know what the disconnect is, because it seems like talking to all these girls and they're like, I want a good guy or whatever. I'm like, okay, I know a million of those. And I talk to the guys, I want a good girl. I'm like, I know a million of those. And then I don't know, sometimes it's just so interesting, because I mean, everybody has their type, you know, and so it's not that there's not any good guys out there or not any good girls out there. Is that people, you know, they're maybe looking for a certain type, and maybe if they're not seeing that, then they're like, oh, there's nobody.
Right.
But
Discouraged.
I don't know, I think what
They just get discouraged. You get disheartened after a while.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that the members of the Waiting Works community ask is, how are you screening people? Like, you know, how are you seeing, as far as like, to see if they're like serious believers, and how do you screen?
Totally. Yeah, that's a great question. So it basically screens itself, because we have our ticket price is at $75, which I know may seem like a lot of money initially. Like, what am I really getting for $75? But you know, it's not just investing in you know, it's not really always what you're getting like physically from it, but you know, where else are you going to go to meet up to 150 other singles, you know, in your city that love Jesus, that are willing, like ready to date, that also paid $75 to be there. So if somebody's just trying to hook up, I mean, there's a lot cheaper ways to do that, you know. And
yeah, exactly.
So it really does. I mean, you're always going to have people fall through the cracks. You know, I don't know people's hearts, so I don't know for sure if they're there for the right reasons. But for the most part, you know, it's a pretty natural screening process.
Right.
And yeah, so it works out.
Yeah. People ask the question about Cityfam. They're like, what do you do if somebody comes in? Because if we're not faith-based, there are a lot of Christians in it, but they're like, what do you do if somebody comes in and they're, you know, like not they're drunk, or they're hitting on the girl? I'm like, the culture just spits them out. You know, they either change or they just leave.
They won't like it, you know.
Yeah, it does it right, exactly. So, but one thing I will mention is I heard that Christian Mingle is like kind of like a cesspool. I heard there's like a lot of like predators on there, guys that are just want to have sex with Christian girls. I was like, that's terrible. You know, like, if you're going to be a dirtbag, don't do it in Christian Mingle. I mean, like,
I feel like I just like laugh though, because I'm like, if you want to have sex with anybody, why would you try to? I mean, I guess maybe it's like the thrill or like the challenge. Like, if I could get a Christian girl to fold, like, I don't know. I'm just like, you're an idiot. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, that's funny, because if they're not going to have sex with you, why would you try?
Right. Well, they must not read the Bible, because there's that verse about the millstone hung around your neck. You know, like,
yeah, yikes.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Yeah,
but
not good.
I don't know. I also feel just kind of on that a little bit about just this. I always like to change. I am a huge advocate for women, and I think women are powerful, and we're so capable of so much more than society, that sometimes even the church tells us we can. And so sometimes I think that women need to take more responsibility for, and hear me out, women, as I'm saying this, and let me finish my thought. When I say more responsibility for being their own advocates. And when I say that, I mean, even this idea of like men being, you know, creepy on Christian Mingle, let's say, you know, instead of saying like, man, we got to protect these women, which yes, protect women when they can't advocate for themselves. But why don't we teach women like what to look out for, like red flags, and how to say no to somebody? And I get it. If this guy's going to attack her or make her feel unsafe, there's times where women need protection. But I just know for myself, I mean, I maybe didn't say this earlier, but you know, in this time from 26 to 30, I've been on like 60 first dates, like at least. And so I've really been able to see like, okay, there's different types of guys. Some of them show you their red flags earlier on, and that I've had to like really assert myself sometimes and be like, hey, that's not okay behavior. And so instead of me being like, oh man, like these guys who are calling themselves Christian are walking all over me, I'm like, no, nobody gets to walk all over me unless I let them. You know, I get to choose to go out with this guy. I get to choose to continue to go out with this guy. If he's going to be a dirtbag, like, and I choose to continue to go out with him, whose fault is that really? Like, I put myself in that situation. And again, I want to say I understand it's nuanced and there's trauma and everything, like, but at the end of the day, like, no one's going to save you. You have to save yourself, you know, like you have to advocate for yourself and be a strong woman, because guys are not going to get, unless they're forcing your hand, like they're not going to get away with it if you keep walking away.
Right. Sure. So, so I'm going to ask you, how many second dates of those 60?
A handful.
Handful. That's okay. So how do you, so basically, is it just discernment? Like you're kind of reading your spirit to see, you know, am I excited to see him again? Or what, or is it, or some like, you know, like non-negotiables you have that they have to meet? Or how do you determine who gets a second date and who doesn't?
Right. So a lot of it is I'm always just very willing to go on like a first date, because the way at least I look at it is like, well, I think there's like 4 stages. There's dating, relationship, engaged, marriage. And that the dating phase, you're literally meeting a stranger. And so when I say I've been on a date, it doesn't mean I've been in 60 relationships. So it's just as much as, you know, you go to church and you see 10 women, and if you're like, like I'm not really interested in any of them, but let's say you were like, I haven't met them yet, so I'll try it out. It's like meeting somebody for the first time at church if I see them on an app, you know, and there's just going to be a lot of no's. And so I think that a lot of times it's just not attracted, or I've had a few where I was like, oh, I'd be interested in a second date, and I just don't ever hear back from them. You know, it
Sure.
goes all the time. It's so like, it's horrible, but like,
Yeah,
it's so normal, you know,
it
and you just
happens.
have to be like part of it, you know, like they don't respond back, don't take it personally. Maybe you're not their type. That's okay. You'll be a lot of other people's types.
Totally. It really isn't as complicated as people make it. People have asked me before, they're like, dude, nobody's came along that you were interested in. And I'm like, actually, there were a couple girls that I was interested in, and they weren't interested in me. And that's really the kind of the, you know, the whole point to it is like, you want to find somebody, like when sometimes women will complain, they'll be like, you know, oh, there's no guys out there. I'm like, look, you have men right now in your life that would marry you. I guarantee it. But you don't,
DMs right now.
right. But you don't like them, right? You're like, ew, no, right? So like everybody has that. So the goal is to find somebody that they're your equal on some level. Like they go all in and they reciprocate. And then that's the person. I think where we get ourselves into trouble, especially when, you know, when we fornicate, is because men will have sex with a woman that they wouldn't go all in on. That just maybe not their best yes. And they'll have sex with her. And then what happens is you drift into a relationship sometimes with some of those girls, and then you're kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out, looking over your shoulder. I lived that story for many years. But when you wait, you're going to try to say your best yes, and then you're probably not going to be able to, you know, get her on the first night. So if you're able to sleep with the girl on the first night, she's not your best yes, you know, like honestly, because you're probably gonna have to put a little work for your best yes. I mean, and this is just me talking to the non-Christians out there. Hey, Rob here, back with one more thing. When I first started down this way of life, I was super determined to not have premarital sex, even if it meant being alone and doing life by myself. But my desire for making positive changes quickly led to feelings of loneliness and boredom, to the point where I fell into a deep depression and I wasn't enjoying my life at all. It wasn't until years later, when I backslid, hit rock bottom, and then rededicated, at which point I started working with life coaches, that things finally came into focus and I understood how the season of singleness was a blessing and how to use it to my advantage. Over the last 10 years, I formed an amazing process that's not only allowed me, but everyone I've shared it with, to become the absolute best version of themselves. And I want to do that same thing for you. I want to show you how to maximize the season of singleness, to discover a purpose and create a life that you couldn't even have dreamt of if you tried. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go to my website, robbkowalski.com, click on the courses tab, and you'll see 2 courses there. One called the Proverbs 31 Blueprint for ladies, one called Unleash the Best You for men. Click on the one that's right for you and enter the code podcast to take 50% off for a limited time. Hope to see you on the inside. Now back to the episode. So what would you say, this is something from a reader, I want to have you respond to this person. How do you really know what a person is like? By the image they portray in this type of environment. I like to see how a person treats others when he doesn't think I'm watching. I like to ask his friends about him. I can't see how this mixer concept would help you see what a person is really like. I'm all for doing fun stuff and meeting people, all kids of friends. I don't know what that means, but I can't see how a mixer can connect healthy, meaningful relationships.
All right. Okay. I hear you. But I think the thing is with that takes time. You are never going to know that with anything. Like, right. It's like, it's silly to me in the sense of, if you're going to meet a friend, should you go to, I'm trying to think of a place where you might like meet friends. I don't know, like a party or something, and be like, I don't want to meet friends here because I don't know what they're really like, right. Like, consistently, like, or just like hating on like the place that you meet them. But it's like, in reality, I'm not suggesting anybody marry somebody after they meet them this one time, or even get in a relationship after the first time. You need to trust somebody before you get in a relationship. It's dating, then relationship. And I would hope that even if you met somebody at church, that you would never just jump right into a relationship with them just because you met them at church. Like, right. Trust me, like, do not, like, ain't nobody crap. You know what I mean? Like, you don't trust anybody until they've shown you that they can trust you, because you're valuable. And so I think that's like, I would just take it back a whole bunch of layers and be like, what do you mean? Like, when do you ever just get into a relationship with somebody without seeing them over time? And right. How do you see somebody over time? You spend time with them, maybe in groups, that's fine. But it's like, how else do you expect, or would you suggest meeting somebody?
Right. You got to meet them somewhere.
Got to meet them somewhere. And then on the flip side, I had said, it almost sounds like she's like, I don't know, I guess, what would your alternative be?
Yeah, it's not like this or that. It's both. It's like, you meet them here, and then you do see them in all those other environments that you want, but you had to meet them somewhere. Even if you met them at the grocery store, you're not going to know all those things about them right off the jump. I thought it was a little, yeah. I think maybe they had.
Even if you saw them interacting with people at the mixer, I would still say that's not enough information to have. Right. Like, you got to see consistency with this person to really make like a informed judgment about somebody.
So for the older people like myself, what do you do for people over 39?
Wait, sorry.
I guess, is that the cutoff, 39? Is the cutoff 39 years old? Because somebody said, what do you do? What about the people that are older than 39? Somebody asked.
Yeah, we want to do it for every age range. Right now, because we are still so small, it's just we don't have I think it's called critical mass. Like, we don't have enough people to be filling these events. So maybe once we get a lot better at targeted ads, we'd be able to like really fill these events. But we're like, to be honest, I only went full-time in May. And so only like a few months ago. And we had our first mixer in December 2021. But that wasn't even, at that point we were like, this is just a side fun thing. We're not really even going to be doing this. And then even our mixer in February was like, this is still fun. And so it wasn't like real until April. So we're so small that we're like, eventually I hope we can get to that age range, but we would just need way more people to even just know about us so we can fill the events.
Well, that's how you get more guys, because you let the older guys come in and date the younger girls, and then you'll have more guys. Or just make the make the age range bigger for men. Like, if it's 21 to 39 for
then
women.
the girls don't come because they're like, the guys are old and creepy.
Well, I'm saying you could don't make them like 60, but maybe you do 45 or something. I don't know. So tell everybody
so we did have 22 to 40. I was gonna say we did have 22 to 40, and that just felt like a little bit too. It's a hard thing because it's also hard because everybody has different preferences. Some people are like, I only date people who are 10 years plus older than me, or I only date people who are 10 years plus younger than me. And so it's just so hard to really cater to everybody's desires. So we're like, we do need to make it a little smaller. So hopefully at some point we will be able to have more age ranges.
Yeah, we don't want to turn it into sugardaddy.com, but
definitely not.
Yeah, getting back out into the dating world a little bit, and I was just going to kind of do exactly what you said, where I'm going to go on some like very low stakes first dates. I don't even know if I want to call it a date, just kind of get to know each other, have a coffee, and kind of get a read on, do I want to see him again? Do I have peace about taking another step? But yeah, you asked me, I think before, if I'd ever done any online dating, and I said I created a Facebook dating profile like 3 weeks ago, but it hasn't been a good experience. It's what it seems like to me is anytime there's like a cute girl in there, it turns out to be like it's probably like a catfish, like a person pretending to be somebody that they're not. So you said there was other dating sites?
Yeah. So so most of my like 60 first dates were all from online. I mean, I've been very rarely asked out in real life. And so I would say, y'all, get on online dating if you're not already. But there's some caveats around it, and realizing that it's a big game, and I'm not saying to be a player. I'm just saying to even protect your own heart, just keep it lighthearted. But I would say my tips is like I would go on Bumble, on Hinge. Hinge is really good, and I really like that one. And I would say try to just
why do you like Hinge? Yeah.
I like Hinge because it just seems like you can kind of get an idea of what the person's like. Obviously, you're never going to know until you meet them, but it just seems like a lot of people are on Hinge. And so there's just a lot of people to choose from. And so I would just say, yeah, I always try to meet up with like the person as soon as possible. Now, as a woman, obviously, I'm not asking them out, but I have my ways of, I have a little hack here. What I like to say is if they're like, asking me lots of questions back and forth, I like to say, that's a really good question, but an even better in-person answer, winky face. You really just you drop that hinky real hard. And so they know exactly what you want. And then if they're like, oh yeah, we should hang out sometime, be like, yeah, we should, and just kind of keep putting the ball back in their court. And so for a guy, there's really not, maybe back and forth a few times and then being like, hey, I would love to hear more about that in person or something like that. Just make it doesn't have to be a huge line or anything. Just try to get off of texting as fast as possible.
Yeah. Good advice.
And just making it another good thing for dating advice. I think for guys especially, you always want to make sure that you're suggesting a place that's very public, because we as women have to worry about safety and stuff. And then so just being like, hey, do you want to get coffee at, or what part of town do you live in, so we can schedule something close to you, whatever. And then I always appreciate when guys also ask, do you have any dietary restrictions? Because at least where I live in California, everyone's gluten-free, whatever, they have issues. Not issues, but stomach issues. And so I would just say, yeah, ask the girls, it makes you sound caring and considerate, and just try to get face to face as soon as possible. And if it's a catfish, okay, cool, you met at a coffee shop, bring some work just in case, and then use work, and so yeah, I would say to do that. But then also, especially for Christian guys out there listening, if there are any, I would say definitely have accountability, talk to a buddy before you go, because the thing is, I think a lot of times either the church or pastors or people, well-meaning people, they're like, ooh, be so careful, because they basically don't want you just hooking up with people, and they're like, this is just a big hookup app. And I think a lot of times the women, I've heard from my Christian guy friends or people who are trying to stay abstinent, these women are aggressive, and they're making all these, they're like, how don't we go back to my place, on the first date. And so I would say my biggest piece of advice, and because I went on a date with a guy once who's Christian, who's so kind, and he's like, I gotta text my buddy, he's my accountability partner, let him know that I just left. And I was like, that is so adorable. Like, I was so like, I was honestly very impressed because I was like, wow, like you have accountability even on a first date with somebody you don't know. Like, that's so smart, because it could be a really easy pathway down to, getting back into things that you maybe don't want to get into, because, and that's what I mean, like, keep it public. Don't go hang out. Don't make it a really long one, because you want to make sure this is with the trustworthy girl or guy, and just keep yourselves in safe situations. So I would say definitely have accountability. Have your buddy ask you, then ask me about what happened last night. So then I have to share everything with you. If something that did happen, whatever. And you just have fun with it. And, you're just connecting with the person, and maybe they're not going to be your person, but maybe they'll have a friend that is, or maybe you'll have a friend that's better suited for them, just focus on connecting and staying present in the moment.
Love it. It's good stuff. Get from virtual to in person as quickly as possible. Public place. Make sure that that it's a coffee date or something short, because even like a dinner, that could be 2 hours, and you don't want that kind of commitment on a first meeting.
Yeah, and it's expensive.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah. So you heard it here from the dating pro.
You heard it first.
All right, tell everybody. Let's tell everybody how they can find you on social media, on the web, but also if they want to get on your database to get you to come to their city, what do they do?
Yeah, so first of all, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. We're iykyk.dating, and we also have a Facebook group. It's called the IYKYK Dating Community, and it's pretty cool. We have, I think, 1,500 people in there right now, and it's growing so fast, where people from all around the country, we just have a good like a prompt every day about dating that people discuss. So it's super fun. And then if you want us to come to your city, you must fill out that interest form, which you can find in the bio of either our TikTok or our Instagram. Right now we're working on a website, but it's not finished yet. So you're going to find that that link basically in any of the bios, or the Facebook as well. You can find that there. Fill it out, send it to your single friends.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. If you did your first event in December 2021 and it's only July of 2022 and you're full time already. I've been doing Cityfam for 7 years and I've never been paid. So hats off to you. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, God's providing. It's not much, but it's working.
All right, everybody, go follow Mel on social media and connect with the dating page. And I know we have a lot of people in their 30s. We have some in their 20s, but probably a lot of people in their 40s too. I would go ahead and connect with them anyway, because there's probably a pretty good chance that you will do events for older people at some point, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, definitely still sign up, put your information in, so we can at least draw from that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on tonight. It was great having you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll stay in touch.
All right.
All right.
Bye.